How's it going? I want to make a video uh, that has to do with the economy, and the reason I'm doing this is because I use a bunch of different investing apps. I study economics. I've been studying politics. I've been studying history, and I've been watching people's behaviors and comments in the apps and online and on videos. Um, and it seems to me that 90% of people have no idea what's going on. They have no idea why we're seeing the economy fail, why we're seeing the stock market fail. And this probably explains why 90% of people don't make money in the market. And there's only about 10% of people who actually make money in the market. And it seems like everybody just comes up with their own excuses that have no validity whatsoever, but they sound like it could be a reasonable thing. And I don't blame them. I don't blame a lot of people, because most people who invest don't even study economics, which is a terrible, terrible mistake. And you start seeing all these excuses and reasons, and they want to blame everybody else, and not knowing what's going on, from everything saying, oh, it's hedge funds that are making all the stocks go down, they're playing with the market. It's like, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. Some individual stocks, it's how they invest. It's not, they don't push it up and down. And what I want to do is I want to clear a lot of things out of the way, because what we're seeing right now is a very unique time that we've seen in the past while, anyway, and it's being pushed further than we've ever seen. And there's a good reason for all of this that's taking place. There's reasons to why everything is happening the way it is, and I've wrote out some reasons here, and I'm going to go over them step by step to help people understand what's happening and how many factors are involved in the economy. The economy is not the stock market, and vice versa. Anything that happens in the economy will affect the stock market, but not the other way around. And it's important to understand that, and it's important to know that. There's a difference. The economy is everything that's circulating in our country. Everything. It's not just stocks, but it's also goods and services and money and materials and minerals and everything that moves in this nation is part of this economy. And everything that moves within and without this nation is part of the global economy. So now that I've got that out of the way, let's tackle some of these issues that are happening right now, and let's get some of this misinformation out of the way and stop blaming these ghost problems. Now, where this all kind of started was during the COVID crisis. And as we've seen it go on and on, we've seen mismanagement. And we've seen mismanagement across the board, especially, and I won't lie, since Biden has taken office. Because we saw the market and the economy, despite COVID, continue to rise, and at record rates, when Trump was in office. Once he got out of office, we saw a decline, some instability, started to rise again, and now all of a sudden we're at this stagnant point where the market doesn't want to push up. All the major indexes don't want to push up. And there's reasons for that. There's reasons why all these stimuluses are being created, and that's to try to push the market and to push the economy, or to push the economy so the market moves. That's the whole idea. It's to stimulate. That's why it's called a stimulus. Now what happens, and this is mostly in order, this is just a quick list that I went through. Let's see. The economy, why we've seen the economy slow and crash. Well, mostly because of COVID. And how did COVID affect it? Well, there was a lot of people who were shut down, a lot of these businesses. And when the businesses stop, goods stop being moved, money stops being moved. When people had to be pushed into their homes and not go outside, the economy started taking a dive. And there's no excuse now, really, since Biden has been in office. There's lots of things that could have been done to prevent a lot of these things. It's been over a year and a half now, almost. It's going to go on 2 years in a few months from now, and we've been seeing overprinting. What does overprinting do? When we start printing money for everything, we start giving money out, all this unemployment, all these stimulus checks, all the small business loans, all the money to help pay your rent, and all this, it all has to come from somewhere. There's no such thing as free. And I went over this in another video where it's just like in physics. Everything comes from something. There's no such thing as creating energy out of nothing. You have to create energy out of something. Now you can magnify energy and convert energy and burn energy away, but it still gets converted into something else, no matter what. So we've been seeing the economy slow down, and there's overprinting money, and what does that do? That causes more inflation, because the more money that's produced, the less value the money has. And then how do they want to try to make up for this? The government has been raising taxes, even though raising taxes is something Democrats always want to do anyway, because it helps them gain money too. It goes right to the government. And within that government, they can start subsidizing all the money to different places they want to. So then with that, we get overinflation. And then they raise the taxes. And what does that happen? When you raise taxes, people want to spend less because they realize they get less for their money. And what happens is when you raise taxes, not only do you see rich people putting their money overseas so it can't be taxed and it goes into incognito, but people don't want to spend money in the stores because it's not worth it. When they start raising taxes like capital gains tax, people realize they're not going to get as much back from the stocks and from their investments that they normally would. So where's the incentive to continue to invest? It goes away, especially when you raise it to 40, nearly 40%, almost 50%. Half your money is getting taken away, even in long-term investments. A lot of people try to save for a few years so taxes are lowered. That's the whole reason why you have a lower tax the more you save it. It's not some rich scheme. It's in order to keep the economy moving. And what happens when the money is worth less, people stop spending their money. And when people stop spending their money, they try to save it, and they're not putting it into the market. And so now everything starts slowing down even further. And people are saving their money, but what happens to money when it's saved, when it's devaluing? Well, now it's going to be worth less. All that money that people are saving in bank accounts or under their bed or wherever they hide it in their safes, every single day it loses value. And we're seeing inflation skyrocket. I mean, if you have $100 and you try to save it, and with an inflation rate of 10%, now you got $90. And you raise it to 40%, now you got $60. That's almost half as much as that $100 is worth. The same thing with $1,000. All this money that people are trying to save for their future becomes less and less. Literally worth less. So it loses value. People freak out, and so they start to sell off. And they sell off before the taxes get raised because they want to keep as much value from their money as possible. And what does that happen? That creates less value in the market. Because the only reason why stocks in the market are worth something is because people are buying them up. And there's less stocks to go around. And that would increase the value, but since people are selling it off, now it decreases the value. So people are losing their savings, and then people are selling off in the market. And what do people want to do? They want to put it in somewhere where it's not taxed, right? Where it's not taxed. Why? Because that's what smart people are going to do. And so what are they doing? They're taking it out of the regular market, putting it in the crypto market. And what is that causing? That's causing market instability and no faith in the market. And when you have no faith in the market, what does it do? It causes people to gamble in the market, just like Wall Street bets. You know, it's not only young people that are betting now, it's older people too, because they see maybe there's more value in investing into a stock where everyone's tossing their money in, not realizing that there's going to be people in the end who are holding on and they're going to lose out the most. And now because the value of the money is worth less, they're starting to throw in their savings. And what happens when the stocks crash? They lose their life savings. So people start losing money. And what does that cause? Panic. And then governments want to maintain control. So what do we see in China? China's coming out with their own digital currency. So they're banning cryptocurrency. So what does that create? That creates a mass sell-off in the crypto market, which devalues people's investments. So people start to lose money and then they panic sell. And that just deepens the cycle. And what else happens when people lose their jobs and people have nowhere to go and people become on unemployment? And where does that money come from? Comes from the government printing out money at a loss. So what does that do? That puts us in debt even further, devaluing the money. So the government prints more money for unemployment, for more stimulus, for rent assists, small business loans, etc., etc. I mean, some of that's in their mindset might have good intentions, but it absolutely backfires. And this is why we don't need government in the market or messing with the economy. We've seen it again and again and again, from Soviet Union to feudal Japan to socialist countries. Once the government steps in, they have no way to manage everything at all. So it creates instability. And then we have more inflation because they're printing out more money. So it's deepening the cycle. And what happens? Then there's low incentive to work because people are getting more money on unemployment than they would off unemployment. And even with some of their businesses, I have to contest and confess, my business was essentially shut down. I'm an audio engineer. I'm in the entertainment business. I've been doing it for nearly 20 years. I've never seen anything like this. I made a living off of entertainment and live shows and concerts, and I was forced to go on unemployment because jobs were closing down. They didn't want to hire people because the proximity of people in COVID. So I had to apply for unemployment. So there's low incentive to work because of further inflation. So now, because of all these companies shutting down, we have a low GNP, which is a gross national product, which brings our GDP down. Because now we're not producing all these products. We have businesses shut down. And what does that do? That causes depression, fear among families, industry closes down, investors panic, they get depressed. It affects everybody. And what does the government try to do to make up for that? Oh, they try creating more stimulus and printing more money to try to get the economy moving because they think people are going to spend it. But people are not spending it because they're trying to save it because they know not only are taxes high, but their value of the money is low. So the only thing people are really trying to do right now is get food. They even put like a halt on rent. And they've been giving out money for people for rent. And that's just more money being printed. And it just deepens the hole. You see where this is going? It's just a downward spiral. We're just digging and digging and digging. So what does that do? That creates more inflation. And that creates the inability to run businesses affordably. So more businesses shut down, bringing unemployment up. And more people claiming small business loans. And what happens? All the SBA money got depleted in half the time they thought it would be. Because how high unemployment's been, Even during COVID, under Trump, unemployment was at record low across the board. White families, black families, Hispanic families. It was the lowest it had ever been in over 30 years. Think about that. Even during COVID. And the economy continued to go up. What's happening now? The complete opposite. If you watch some of my other videos, you can see how stagnant the market's been. And I'm going to make more market videos. But I really think it's important for a lot of people, especially new people who are investing to understand these basic concepts, basic economics. So now they can't afford to run businesses, and so businesses shut down, creating more need for SBA loans, which get depleted. And what do people do? They complain to the government to create more, and that's more printing money. So now we have this weak administration and more mismanagement, creating a weaker economy day by day. And what does that do? That leaves us open to foreign attacks, like cyber attacks, like we just saw on the East Coast. Gas and oil pipelines being attacked. And so what does the government do? They back the companies and have them pay off the ransom. Which is going to do what? That's going to leave us open to even more attacks, because they go, oh, we attacked them, we held the ransom, they paid us, they're desperate, we'll do it again and again. And this time we're not only going to attack their gas lines, we're going to attack their telecommunication lines and their electric grid, and so on and so on. And that's going to leave us either more open to attack. So people are starting to lose faith in the government policy. You can see an overwhelming amount of support dropping for Biden because they know he's doing a terrible job. There's no two ways about it. And if people defend him, then those are the people who are making all these same mistakes, who don't know about economics, they don't know about investing, and they're probably freaking out because they don't understand it, and they're coming up with all these other excuses, blaming it on hedge funds and random other excuses. The amount of excuses I've heard and people say, it's astonishing. I go to Wall Street Bets. 99% of the people on Wall Street Bets have absolutely no idea what's going on. They don't understand the market. They don't understand the economy. They don't understand how anything works, and so they listen to other people. They're literally asking random people what they should invest in. That's the worst thing you could do if you're trying to invest and make money in the market. So what does that do? That creates depression, high rates of suicide, less incentive to work, poor quality of life, and desperation. And what does that do? That creates higher crime rates, along with the releasing of violent criminals with COVID-19. And so what does that do? That creates more fear and instability. And what happens? The cycle continues all over again, deepening the spiral, and it just repeats and repeats and repeats, and it's breaking down our entire system in every single way. Every single way. And it seems like everything the government asks is having the complete opposite effect. I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, I'm independent. So I get to watch all these things people are doing. And I'm seeing how this administration isn't working. And I'll be honest, throughout my life as an adult, I voted for all different parties for all different reasons. I'll vote even on the ticket. I'll vote for different parties who I think are going to do the best in those zones and those areas. I've voted Democrat before. I voted Obama. I didn't vote Trump the first time. I voted him the second time because I saw what he was doing. I voted Green Party. I voted Independence. I voted Libertarian. And the reason I do this is because I study policy. I study economics. I study history. I study politics. So I understand the value in different people doing different jobs. And right now we have literally the worst administration probably in history. It's worse than Carter. It's worse than Nixon. It's destroying everything that we have as a nation to the point where I'm starting to think it's really done on purpose. I'm really starting to think that all these policies and things we're doing is almost like backed and paid for by China. Because what are we doing? We're starting to emulate everything that China's been doing, which is not good. Pushing for these COVID vaccination passports. What is that about? The same company, IBM, that's creating this is the same company that created the punch cards to keep track of Jews in World War II. The same company. And now they're keeping track on your phone. And they're going to follow you everywhere with GPS and all the things you do in your apps and collect as much information as possible. That's what China is doing. They're making it so you can't do anything in China without a cell phone. You can't buy goods because everything's going to be digital currency. And I feel like that's the next step that they're going to push here. They're going to try to do digital currency. And then they're probably going to try to ban cryptocurrency because they realize that they have no control over it. Literally emulating everything China is doing. Except China just seems more efficient at it, which is another bad sign too. It's like, how incompetent is our system right now? And this is just to clarify to a lot of people who really don't know what's going on, and they don't really understand much about politics and economics and how it works and how it affects everybody. It's very, very dangerous, and it's getting to the point where I don't know if we're ever going to be able to climb out. We're creating debt so high, $9 trillion in the past few months, just adding to our multi-trillion debt anyway, making our money worth less and less, giving all these other countries the upper hand. We see China's GDP rising. We see their economy rising. They're taking over the microchip market, the consumer electronics market. They're stealing Tesla's technology, and they're going to make it so we can't get our hands on microchips without their consent and approval. We can't get rare earth materials because they've already taken over the market, using everything from the Belt and Road Initiative to just hoarding everything that they can. They knew this was coming. The last 10 years, China's been consuming all the microchips they could and semiconductors. You know, and I tried warning people about this, and a lot of people I know would laugh and they wouldn't listen. It's like, all right, well, what about now? What's going on here? That people taking experimental injections that they don't even know, that was never even past safety tests. Like, how many times I made a video about the Food and Drug Administration, or should I say the Food and Death Administration. Not only have they not even approved it, but half the things they've approved have been lethal. So I want you guys to take all of this into consideration and think about this and start to look into economics and start to study it. And you'll start seeing how crazy this situation is and how it's not hedge funds. People need to start deep diving into our surroundings, because if you don't know anything about what's happening in our environment, then you're just prone to becoming captive by it and destroyed by it and broken by it. So leave on a happy note. I love you all. I think you guys are great. Thanks for sharing and liking the video. Just try to get this out to as many people as possible. People you think that could benefit from it and understand it a little bit better, and start realizing that in order to turn this market around, we have to stop printing money. We have to lower taxes. We have to start making everything in America. And we have to start importing our goods to other countries, because we have the ability to do that. We have more resources than a lot of other countries do. And if we really try, we can really turn this economy around. But every day it's going to get harder and harder and harder to do that. We need to vote all these people in office out. We need to end this administration. We need to get people who know how businesses and economics work if we want to turn this around. Otherwise, it's not going to. And it's going to be even worse in the future. It's going to get worse. I said 2021 was going to be worse than 2020. 2022 is going to be worse than it is right now if we don't turn this around. Now, love you guys. Take care. I'll see you in the next video.